It was a fairy tale romance that captured the world's attention, and it did have fantastic elements to it. A dashing prince sweeps a beautiful young woman off her feet and marries her in a lavish wedding after tying the knot in two. Or 5, the queen consort is sharing what has kept their marriage, which was Charles's second following his divorce from the late Princess Diana in 1996, after 15 years together, going strong even after 30 years, since King Charles and Princess Diana's official divorce. The mysteries surrounding their troubled marriage continue to captivate the world. The marriage problems of Charles and Diana have cast a shadow over the royal family. Now the Queen has decided to bring the whole issue to a head by advising them to divorce. The questions still linger about what truly went wrong. For years, many have pointed fingers at King Charles, blaming him for their complicated marriage. But just when everyone thought the truth was buried, Charles finally spoke out. According to reports, King Charles recently admitted that he hated her. What led to such a strong statement about the woman who once captured the hearts of millions? Is there more to the story? Join us as we uncover the shocking truth behind King Charles' revelation, why King Charles hated Diana. Prince Charles' revelation to Princess Diana on the eve of their wedding has sparked intense interest and debate, according to astrologer Penny Thornton, who shared this shocking claim in the documentary. Charles confessed to Diana that he didn't love her, just hours before their highly anticipated wedding. This admission was a critical moment in their relationship, and it's clear that Charles's motivation for sharing his feelings was to avoid entering their marriage under false pretenses. He wanted to be honest with Diana about his feelings, even if it meant risking their relationship. This decision, however, left Diana devastated and questioning her decision to marry Charles. But what happened next changed everything, and the consequences would echo throughout their marriage. This book really explores the fact that they were deeply unhappy, or at least, Diana was from literally day one of their marriage. Stay with us as we uncover more of this emotional story. Diana's reaction to Charles's confession was understandably distraught, and she confided in Thornton that she didn't want to go through with the wedding, and even considered not attending. This reaction shows that Diana was deeply hurt and unsure about her relationship with Charles. It shows the difficulties they would later face in their relationship. Despite Charles's reservations, the wedding proceeded as planned in 1981, but their marriage was ultimately marked by infidelity and tension, with Charles rekindling his romance with Camilla Parker. The couple's relationship issues culminated in their separation in 1996, and it's clear that Charles's admission on the eve of their wedding was just the beginning of a long and complicated relationship. In the years following her separation, Diana went on to date other people, including British Pakistani surgeon Hasnat Khan, whom she considered the love of her life. Her relationship with Charles, however, remained complicated, and she spoke publicly about her struggles with the royal family and her marriage, leaving a lasting impact on the public's perception of the royal family. But let's take a closer look at how it all started. Lady Diana Spencer was just 16 when she met Prince Charles in 1977. Charles was 29 at the time and was visiting the Spencer family home Althorpe for a grouse shooting party. He was a guest of Diana's older sister, Lady Sarah McCorkindale, whom he was dating briefly during this time. Sarah talked to 2 reporters about her relationship with Charles. These 2 hours, the presenters on every news channel were saying injured, but expected to make a full recovery, and I have no idea why. But it made me so angry. She shared some personal things, including that she had an eating disorder and many boyfriends. She also said that she wouldn't marry Charles, even if he were a regular person or the king. However, things changed when Charles saw the article. He was upset and told Sarah that she had done something very foolish. Shortly after their relationship ended. This was a few years before Charles started dating. But what happened next set the stage for a deep and romantic relationship, while Diana's sister Sarah wasn't very impressed with Prince Charles. Diana felt differently about him. According to Tina Brown's book, Diana told her friends that she thought she would marry Charles. One day, she even joked that he was the one person who couldn't divorce her because of his royal status. However, Diana later shared a different story with biographer Andrew Morton in his book Diana. Her true story. Morton wrote that Diana's first impression of Charles was not as romantic as one might expect. Instead of being swept off her feet, Diana thought Charles seemed like a sad person. This shows that Diana's feelings about Charles changed over time, and she didn't always see him as the perfect partner during his engagement interview. In 1981, Prince Charles talked about his first impression of Lady Diana Spencer. He said that when he met her at the age of 16, he thought she was a very lively and fun person. He described her as jolly and amusing and attractive, meaning that she was happy, funny and good-looking. He also mentioned that she was bouncy and full of life, which suggests that she had a lot of energy and enthusiasm overall. Charles's words paint a picture of a young Diana as a vibrant and engaging person who made a positive impression on him. It was 3 years after their first meeting that Charles and Diana met again in July 1980. They were both invited to a weekend barbecue at a friend's house in Sussex. Diana had been asked to stay with some friends in the area, and when she learned that Charles would be there, she decided to attend at the time. Charles had recently broken up with his girlfriend and was still grieving the loss of his friend, Lord Mountbatten. When Charles arrived at the barbecue, Diana was initially unimpressed, but as she got to know him, she found herself feeling differently. Charles, too, was taken with Diana, and he began to show his interest in her. He was drawn to her kindness and empathy, particularly when she expressed concern about his recent loss as they talked. Diana tried to offer Charles some comfort, suggesting that he must be feeling lonely. However, Charles's response was unexpected, and he became overly affectionate, kissing her and following her around like a puppy. Diana was taken aback by his behavior, finding it strange. Despite the initial awkwardness, Charles and Diana began to develop a romance. However, their early days of dating were challenging, with Charles's inconsistent behavior causing frustration. He would call Diane every day for a week, only to not speak to her for 3 weeks. This on again, off again pattern left. Diana feeling uncertain and unsure about their relationship when Charles did call. Diana was thrilled, and her excitement was palpable. Her flatmates would often get annoyed with her enthusiasm, but Diana couldn't help how she felt. The thrill of receiving a call from the prince was intense, and she would eagerly await his messages. It wasn't until Diana spent a weekend at Balmoral as Charles's guest that their romance became public knowledge. A tabloid headline on September 8th, 1980 proclaimed that Charles was in love again, spreading the news of their relationship to the rest of the world. In the early days of their romance, Charles and Diana mostly communicated through phone calls, meeting in person only 13 times before Charles proposed. Despite their romance, their marriage turned out to be much more complicated than people expected. There were issues beneath the surface that soon became hard to ignore. Let's take a closer look at what caused these struggles in their marriage, what you never knew about Diana and Charles. Marriage, the wedding of Lady Diana Spencer and Prince Charles took place on July 29th, 1981. Bishop of Canterbury called the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer Today, the stuff of fairy tales, and in spite of Scotland Yard's most elaborate security measures, ever there was a once-upon-a-time atmosphere in London, at St. Paul's Cathedral. Many people watched as Diana walked out in her wedding dress. The streets of London were filled with people, cheering, and millions of people around the world watched the wedding on television. The ceremony was a grand affair with many notable guests in attendance. The wedding marked a new chapter in the lives of the royal couple, and it was seen as a fresh start for the monarchy. To many, the wedding was a celebration of love and royal tradition. It was a moment of great excitement and joy, and it marked a big change in the royal family with Prince Charles, who would become a king, getting married. However, problems in the marriage were already starting to form, though they weren't visible to the public. The couple's differences and incompatibilities were beginning to show, but they were not yet apparent to outsiders. After the wedding, the couple had their first child, Prince William, in June 1982. The birth was a happy event for the country. It's a prince, a 7-pound 1.5-ounce boy, born late today to Prince Charles and the Princess of Wales. Lady Diana, and Diana was praised for taking care of William herself. She often took him with her on royal visits, which was a change from the way royal children were typically raised. Her approach to motherhood won the public's admiration, and she was seen as a devoted and loving parent. 2 years later, in September 1984, Prince Harry was born with 2 healthy sons. The royal family line was secure to the public. The family seemed perfect, and they were happy with the new additions. The couple's children were a source of great joy. However, behind the scenes, the marriage was struggling, and the couple's relationship was becoming increasingly strained. Charles and Diana's marriage was not as perfect as it seemed. Despite their public appearances, they were having problems. Their personalities and expectations were very different, which caused tension in their union. Diana was young and wanted an emotional connection with Charles, but he was often distant and busy with other things. As time went on, they started spending more time apart. Charles focused on his interests, such as polo and art, while Diana became more involved in charity work with the public. This created an emotional distance between them, and their relationship began to suffer. Despite their public smiles, they were having private disagreements. Their marriage, which had once seemed so perfect, started falling apart. Meanwhile, Camilla Parker, Bowser woman Charles had known since the 1970s, was still a big part of his life. Charles and Camilla had a deep and long-standing relationship, even though she was married to someone else. Charles continued to stay in touch with Camilla, even after he married Diana. Diana noticed the connection between Charles and Camilla and confronted her early in their marriage. However, Charles never truly ended his relationship with Camilla. Over time, it became more obvious, and Diana felt increasingly alone in her marriage. She felt like she was merely playing the role of a royal wife, rather than being in a true partnership with Charles. But this was just the beginning of her struggle. Diana's life as a royal was not what she expected. She felt trapped in a world that was hard to control. The demands of being a royal were high, and the media attention was overwhelming. Every move she made was watched and analyzed by the press. This constant scrutiny affected her mental health. She struggled with bulimia and felt emotionally drained. The pressure to always look perfect and composed in public was suffocating the royal family, which she referred to as the firm did not offer her much support. Despite being loved by the public, who called her the people's princess, Diana felt alone and misunderstood within the palace. She felt like she was living a lie with a public persona that was different from her private life. Things started to fall apart when rumors of infidelity began to surface. The media reported on Diana's close relationship with her riding instructor, James Hewitt. and Charles's relationship with Camilla. These stories became headlines, and the royal family's private life was put into the spotlight. The public's perception of the monarchy began to change. The revelations sparked a debate about the values of royal family members. But it didn't end there. By December 1992, it was clear that Charles and Diana's marriage was over. Diana has agreed to get a divorce from Prince Charles. The final blow to the illusion of that Cinderella marriage. Prime Minister John Major announced to the House of Commons that the couple had officially separated. They would still do their public duties, but they would do them separately. This announcement made it clear that their marriage was not going to work out. Many people had questions about what was going on, but the announcement marked a turning point. The royal family, which is built on tradition and image, had to face the fact that even they were not immune to problems. In 1995, Diana did something unexpected. She gave an interview with Martin Bashir on the BBC's Panorama program. In the interview, she talked openly about her experiences, struggles, and the breakdown of her marriage. She said something that became famous. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. This was a reference to Charles's relationship with Camilla. The interview caused a lot of shock and surprise. Diana's honesty and vulnerability even made the public admire her more. But it also caused more problems within the royal family. In August 1996, Charles and Diana's divorce was finalized. This was the end of their marriage, which had been closely watched by the public. Diana kept her title as Princess of Wales, but she lost some of her formal royal status. After the divorce, Diana redirected her life toward causes that had long touched her heart. She visited hospitals, hugged patients with HIV/AIDS. She met the staff and the 9 patients and shook hands with them all when few others dared, and advocated against the use of landmines in war-torn regions. She traveled to Angola, Bosnia, and other conflict zones, using her fame to highlight suffering and demand change. Her compassion crossed political and cultural borders, earning her admiration not just as a former royal, but as a global humanitarian. Freed from royal restraints, Diana finally found her voice and used it to uplift others. However, all this came to a tragic end when she was involved in a fatal car accident. But the circumstances surrounding her death have sparked many. Controversies keep watching to discover more about the mysteries and questions that still remain. Princess Diana's controversial death. Princess Diana's sudden death on August 31st, 1997, shocked the world. The Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident, and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles. The tragedy started the night before, when Diana and her boyfriend, Dodi Fayed, tried to escape the paparazzi. They were staying at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, owned by Dodi's father, Mohammed Al Fayed. Hoping for privacy, they planned a secret exit, a decoy car left from the front to distract the press while Diana and Dodi left from the back, but the photographers quickly caught on, and a high-speed chase began at about 12:23 a.m. on August 31st, 1997. Their car crashed inside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. The driver, Henry Paul, lost control while speeding, and the Mercedes-Benz S T-Metina 280 slammed into the 13th pillar. The crash was brutal. Dodi Fayed and Henry Paul died instantly. Diana was critically injured, but still alive. The only survivor was Dodi's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, who suffered severe facial injuries. The paparazzi who had been chasing them stopped for a moment, but then began taking pictures instead of helping. Emergency teams arrived quickly and found Diana barely conscious. She was in pain, struggling to breathe. French medics worked to stabilize her before taking her to PTI Salpêtrière Hospital. Unlike in some countries, France's emergency system treats victims at the scene before moving them. They spent over an hour trying to help her before transporting her to the hospital, once their doctors performed surgery, but the injuries were too severe at 4 a.m. Diana was pronounced dead. She had suffered internal bleeding, including a torn pulmonary vein. The world was in shock. Leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people couldn't believe what had happened. Many questioned how such a tragic event occurred, leading to an investigation. The first report found that the crash was caused by the driver. Henry Paul, his blood tests, showed alcohol levels 3 times the legal limit, along with traces of prescription drugs. The paparazzi's reckless chase also played a role. But not everyone believed the official story. Many suspected something bigger was behind the accident. The role of the paparazzi was one of the biggest concerns. Witnesses said photographers followed the car too closely, and some were riding motorcycles dangerously near it. After the crash, instead of helping, they took pictures of the wreckage. This sparked outrage. Authorities arrested several photographers, but later released them while their actions were seen as irresponsible. The official blame was placed on the driver's condition and excessive speed. Rumors and conspiracy theories quickly spread. Mohammed Al-Fayed was one of the loudest voices claiming Diana and Dodi were murdered. He said British intelligence in the royal family wanted to stop Diana from marrying a Muslim and possibly having his child. His claims led to years of speculation, forcing authorities to dig deeper into the case. But something happened thereafter. To address these suspicions, the British police launched Operation Padgy in 2004. The goal was to investigate whether Diana's death was a planned murder after years of work. The 2006 report concluded there was no proof of a conspiracy. The evidence showed that the crash was an accident caused by a drunk driver, high speed and pressure from photographers. Another major investigation took place in Britain in 2008. A jury reviewed medical records, witness accounts, and forensic evidence. After months of hearings, the verdict was unlawful killing. It confirmed that Henry Paul's reckless driving and the paparazzi's chase led to Diana's death. The court acknowledged that the tragedy could have been prevented. One key factor was Diana's seatbelt. She wasn't wearing one at the time of the crash, which might have saved her life. Experts said that if she had been wearing a seatbelt, she would have had a better chance of surviving this, finding led to discussions about seatbelt laws and road safety. Another mystery was Henri Paul himself. Some believed he had connections to intelligence agencies, which raised suspicions about his true role that night. Financial records showed strange bank transactions, but no direct link to any secret operations was found. Despite many theories, the evidence pointed to him simply being a reckless driver. Under the influence, one of the biggest rumors was that Diana was pregnant when she died. Mohammed Al-Fayed strongly claimed she was expecting Dodi's child, and that this was why she was targeted. But medical reports showed no signs of pregnancy. This didn't stop the rumors, but experts dismissed them as speculation. Another unanswered question was about a white Fiat Uno seen in the tunnel during the crash. Some believed this car forced Diana's vehicle off course. Investigators searched for the driver for years, but never found a clear answer. This missing detail fueled more theories about foul play. There was also controversy over the embalming of Diana's body. Some believed it was done to hide evidence of pregnancy. French officials, however, said it was a routine procedure to preserve the body before it was flown to the UK. Despite their explanation, the timing led to more doubts and suspicions, adding to the mystery. A former British spy, Richard Tomlinson, claimed that MI6 had a history of planning similar assassinations. He suggested that Diana's accident fit the pattern. However, an investigation found no evidence to support his claims, and they were dismissed. The grief following Diana's death was overwhelming. Thousands gathered outside Kensington Palace, leaving flowers, notes, and gifts. Her funeral on September 6, 1997, was one of the most watched events in history, with 5 billion people tuning in worldwide. The public's reaction forced the royal family to respond, initially criticized for their silence. They later paid tribute to Diana's kindness and charitable work. Queen Elizabeth eventually made a rare public speech, acknowledging Diana's impact on the world more than 25 years later. Diana's legacy lives on, however. Her tragic death also played a role in the ongoing tension between her children and Camilla. But her legacy continues to inspire and captivate. Her death, however, remains a topic of debate and speculation. It marked a tragic end to a life that had touched so many. Do you think King Charles hated Princess Diana? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.